Hey, I'm Ethan.
Hey, I'm Mike.
I watched the first half of Funny Girl.
I watched the second half of Funny Girl.
And this
is the other half. Streisand on the beach.
Now we're fucking talking. Now
this is what we've been waiting for.
This is a fucking movie.
Oh yeah.
This is a capital M movie.
This is
capital
K
M
Kino.
Musical.
Yeah.
This is it.
This is what
we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yentl was just a taste, and we got off track with the other movie.
Now this movie, we're back
I'm
at the
saying
table.
goodbye to Dolly,
Sure.
and I'm laughing at this Funny Girl.
Yeah, that's right. This just got recently added to the Criterion collection.
Good. Good.
Damn, you really like this movie.
This movie is what I wanted.
What do you
This is the
mean?
movie where I'm like, she's an artiste.
Yeah.
She is the moment. She is it.
Yeah.
This
She
is-
is
this
the
is-
it girl. She's the funny girl.
She's the funny girl.
Yeah.
This is Streisand's moment, baby. This is it.
This was like her first big moment, I believe, too, right?
I don't know.
I believe that's what
might be
what
right.
Honeybee said.
You might be right.
I believe they mentioned like this was their first.
I don't listen to what they're saying. They just say things. They're just a guest, and I just
they
humor
just sort of talk, and then eventually we just we ignore it, and then they stop making noise, and then we like
exactly.
and then we continue what we were
continue
talking
what we were talking about. Yeah. Well, that's a nice fact. That'd be fun for the audience. I'm going to retain none of that. I'm kidding.
But yeah, this was I believe her first big role, and she immediately lit up the screen.
Dude,
immediately.
This movie's crazy, by the way, because first off, it starts off with 5 minutes of blank screen, just music.
That was like the what is it? The what's it called? The orchestra. What's the word? They like a lot of those old musicals start like that, where it's like they play that in the theater as you sit down, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That
they used to do that before they could cram it full of trailers.
Exactly.
Before I could see James McAvoy talking about
the God Night Joe.
Talking about God Night Joe.
All right. Before we do this,
we're dating this episode now.
we went to go watch the Twisters movie together, and the trailer for Speak No Evil with James McAvoy
Incredible
comes on.
movie.
We were already a little bit toasty, and that fucking movie trailer starts out, and James McAvoy is actually like a fucking crazy person. At one point, he's upset because his son cannot dance the God Night Joe, and I was laughing because I had seen this trailer like a billion times.
I've never seen this trailer. For the first time in my life, that was the funniest thing I ever
You
saw.
and your partner, like
Me and Lindsay were laughing. We were ducking it up.
I was laughing, and I felt bad laughing because I have a loud laugh. And I look over, and I was so happy to see all of you guys losing your fucking minds. Rightfully so. It's an absurd trailer. No, you did it wrong again. You're not dancing the God Night Joe properly. You're embarrassing us in front of our guests.
I'll cut your tongue again.
Should we watch it for the podcast?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway.
But
yeah, there's five minutes of blank screen. I was just like, this is nuts. I thought there was like a problem with the video I got, and then it was like, no, Columbia
Overture.
Pictures.
Overture. That's the
it.
word. Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's also the beginning of Zone of Interest too.
Except for that was just one long sustained like upsetting
Sound.
note.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. This was actually like fun music.
Yeah.
Just an upsetting note.
Yeah.
I think it was Funny Girl, and they introduced everyone, and then the shot is a back shot of our main character, Fanny, going up to a theater, and she sees her name on the marquee.
Fanny Bryce.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And she sees her marquee on the theater, and she goes in the back door, and she stops hiding her face, looks in the mirror, and says, "Hello, gorgeous." But she seems solemn. She seems like she has it all.
Right.
She seems a little sad.
Right.
It's all through acting, obviously. Like, it's not. I think that's the thing. In the last movie we watched recently, there's a lot of like, I'm telling you my emotions. I'm telling you how I feel. It's a lot of quick talking, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But this movie has the gall to be like, what if we just shut the fuck up and show you
Let the actors
act in like a quiet way. Like there's like basically no dialogue in this moment.
Yeah.
She even like goes on the stage, she sees the audience, she looks around, the audience is not there. It's empty.
It's empty.
And she like even does like a little machine gun shoot, like she's shooting all the audience, and it's just like
She could kill the audience.
And
Oh
then
man, this is gonna be a Joker moment.
her buddy Emma, right? Well, she's a funny girl.
When I go up there, can you introduce me as Funny Girl? And then she's like dancing on the stairs.
You want to know how I got these skinny legs?
Boom, boom. dancing down the stairs, smoking a cigarette. Where is that Joker?
Where's that Joker? I would
boy.
kill to see Barbara Streisand be the Joker.
Kill. I'm the Joker, baby.
Hey, see?
Anyway, so she's in her dressing room looking at a mirror.
No. Well, she was. Now she's on the stage. She's on the empty stage, but they're looking at the audience, pretending to shoot them all.
She's looking at us when she looks at the mirror and says, "Hello, gorgeous."
No, she's looking at the mirror herself in the mirror.
Oh, okay.
No, you're trying to get a compliment on Barbara Streisand?
I was wondering.
I know. We've been with her a couple movies.
That's true. I'm moving a little fast. I was wondering because this kind of sounds like the end of the movie. So I'm wondering if this might be one of those little sandwiches. I
love a good sandwich.
I love a good movie sandwich.
I love a good movie sandwich. Anyway, yeah. So she seems solemn, but Emma arrives and asks, like, "What are you doing here so early?" And she's sitting in the theater in one of the actual audience seats. She says, "I've never sat here before. This is the first time I'm sitting here." He's like, "Okay, interesting. Well, Mr. Ziegfeld is waiting for you."
Yes.
And she says, "You hear that? You hear that, Mr. Staycoach? I don't know her name. There's a lady she talks about.
Okay.
She's like her mother's friend or like aunt or something like that.
Okay.
Mr. Staycoach. I'm gonna say her name wrong because I feel like they said it like 3 different ways. She says, "You are wrong, Staycoach. Ziegfeld's waiting on me now. Waiting for me."
Yeah.
And then flashback to a moment where I love this scene. Like it's just her getting ready, but it's like all of her mom seems to own like some sort of salon,
but she has a bunch of friends.
A saloon, I guess would be more like, because she serves like alcohol and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's like, kind of like a bar, chill area,
in
like a Jewish community,
right?
And her friends are like talking about like how she wants, like she has dreams of the stage and she wants to be like an actor, and they're like, you'll never get it.
I believe
like,
one of those women is like the inspiration for Betty Boop.
Interesting.
Like I believe I'm gonna look this up, but I think one of them, like I saw them.
This came out after Betty Boop, didn't it?
Well, she's old.
Oh, okay. I see. Like the actual actor.
Yeah, the actual actor, I believe, was the actor that was like the inspiration for Betty Boop.
But anyway, there's a whole song about her basically talking about like everyone basically saying like, you can't, if a girl isn't pretty like Miss Atlantic City, then all she gets is a pity and a pat around the butt. Like no one cares about someone if you're not very pretty because she's not conventionally attractive. Song, and then it's basically, there's a great line in the song. The song goes on. There's one line that says, "When a girl's incidentals are no bigger than 2 lentils, it doesn't spell success."
Oh man.
Like, oh man.
That's some
Titty
good
joke.
stuff. Titty joke.
Titty joke. Even her mom like makes fun of her nose, like, and they all just kind of, but she's just ignoring all this. She's like, "I'm gonna leave," and she goes out to this amazing looking set with just a ton of people hanging out on the street in this very bustling community. I don't really know exactly where it is. I think it's New York, right?
I believe it's New York. Yeah.
She's in like a very
Yonkers.
A Jewish part. No, we're not going back to Yonkers. God no.
I looked it up. It is the voice of Betty Boop and Olive Oil.
Oh wow.
Mae Questrell. She was also in. Maybe you'll know her from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh my God. She also voiced Betty Boop in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
glad they got her back.
She got back. Yeah, she's a pretty well known like voice actor and
so
actor in general. Yeah, the minute I saw her, I'm like, she looks like she's a cartoon character, and I was right.
Sounds like she voices one too.
Yeah. See, this is what she looked like back in the day. Looks a lot like Betty Boop.
She does. She has the same vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
yeah.
So she lives in a particular part of New York.
Yes,
sounds like.
Very cool community, but they're all kind of dressed in drab. She's wearing a very striking bright red dress because she's trying to make it out of here. You know?
Right.
So she goes to Keeney's Oriental Palace. Which is a very interesting name. And the person's like, the bouncer's like, "Hey, you can't come in here. There's the back door." And she's like, "Oh, I'm one of the 8 beautiful girls on the poster." And the bouncer's like, And she's like, pulls out this huge thing of makeup and says, "Don't worry, makeup helps a lot." And walks in.
That's cute.
And does like a whole, participates in a dance rehearsal. And she gets called out and says, You with the skinny legs." And I was like, "What?" She looks and says, "You're fired because she can't keep up with this dance. She's supposed to be like a chorus girl.
Right.
She's not hanging. She's not doing it."
Right.
And she's like, "Listen, don't fire me. I'm the best. I'm born to be on stage. I've been on stage since I was 10, And she has a whole song now about how she's like, I'm not like the other girls. I got skinny legs, which I think is just funny because like
they keep bringing up the skinny legs.
Beauty standards have changed, right? Like, so it's like
now we like thick legs.
Now we like thick legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she has a whole thing where she's like, "Listen, I'm a bagel. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you see you're ready for a plate of onion rolls, and you see a bagel. You're like, what the hell is this? But you don't want to try it. But you try it, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like that's me. I'm different. I'm not what you're used to, but I'm different. It's gonna be great.
She's an everything bagel.
She's an everything bagel, exactly. And so she sings a whole song about like, you know,
I'm an everything bagel with legs.
Which has a whole song, goes through like the whole stage and talks about it, and then goes outside and is like kind of ready to give up. And she's like, you know, beautiful girls aren't going to be like that forever, and that's my time. I actually got like, I'm funny. I'm a funny girl.
That's the name of the movie.
That's exactly. And then she runs back on stage and sings, I'm the greatest star, and you guys don't know it, and you know, all to herself. And then someone claps at the end of the song.
Who is it?
It's her friend Eddie. Eddie is the guy who got her the original chorus gig, and he's like, you know, you're not a chorus girl at all. You're a singer and a comic.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, all right, I have another job for you that I think I could get you hired in. Can you roller skate? She's like, yeah, of course I can roller skate. Cut to her fucking up on roller skates with a whole group of other people trying to do like a cool roller skate line, being goofy and bad, but everyone finds it really funny because
she's so funny.
It is honestly very funny. Like,
Were you laughing?
The comedic timing in this is like amazing, and she's just like rolling into things and bumping into stuff and trying to like get in line, but also not trying to like get back in the chorus line, but not taking up too much space. But obviously she is, because she's goofing around.
Right.
She even like runs into like a pulley and brings down a whole curtain down, and like the main guy, the guy who actually runs the place, not Eddie. I don't think I wrote down his name.
Is it Ziegfeld?
No, it's not him. It's a smaller time guy. But anyway, he's upset. He's like, what the fuck? Like, she sucks. Like, get her out of here. But then everyone,
she's awful.
But at the end of the thing, everyone's like cheering, and she goes back to Eddie, and Eddie's like, go back out there. You're doing great. She goes back out there and like sings a whole song on roller skates. Like, not anything crazy, but she is singing a whole song, and everyone's
she's singing
extremely high.
Can't roller skate in a buffalo herd. Can't roller skate in a buffalo herd.
It's just a fun song. Like, it really doesn't matter. It's not really relevant to the plot. It's just a fun song. But yeah, and so yeah, she gets down there and she's like, Eddie's like, you did so good. Like, everyone loves you. It's great. The guy who owns the place is like, you pissed me off, but you know what? You did a damn good job. And you know what? I can't believe I'm paying you for this. And she's like, you're paying me. I don't know what you're paying me, but I bet it isn't enough. Hey.
She's so good.
Every joke she has is like actually really, really funny.
Oh, man.
And so she goes back to the dressing room, and everyone's actually like really annoyed with her because it's like, well, I mean, like, she's a chorus girl. She fucked up the whole thing, made it all about herself. Right.
Sure.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
She's like, listen, and he's like, don't worry. When I meet Mr. Siegfried, it's gonna be great. Look, here he is right now. And she opens the door. In pops out Nick Arnstein.
Yes.
Nick Arnstein's there.
Played by Omar Sharif, I believe his name is. Yeah, from lots of things.
Lots of things. He's in a lot of things.
Lawrence of Arabia, I think, is the main thing.
He is a slippery-looking, handsome devil.
I loved him in this movie.
Yeah,
I looked up like who he was based off of, and he's based off just some like white guy, and I'm like, this guy's so much more charming looking. Like, apparently there was a big deal because they spoilers, him and Barbara Streisand ended up becoming like lovers in the movie. Omar Sharif is like Egyptian. And Barbara Streisand's obviously Jewish, and at the time there was a lot of conflict between the two of them. And so when they like kissed, it was like a whole big deal. And,
wow!
Yeah, it was like a big like political issue, and people were like, "We have to get rid of him." The producers were like that, but the director and Barbara Streisand were like, "No, if you get rid of him, we leave too." And so they continued.
Cool.
And they also apparently fucked off camera. Also, there was a whole thing between the two of them.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Why?
Well, I mean, we were talking about the Yentl thing. Remember how like the co-star to Barbara Streisand was also like, you want to fuck, bro? Like, what's going on?
Right. See, I don't usually listen when people tell me things on the
podcast. You're right.
Well, in one ear at the other. I'm surprised
this
that
one stuck in there.
Yeah,
it's because it was about sex. Sex things stick in my head.
Gross. But yeah, he's really charming in this. I love him a lot. He's so good in this.
Yeah,
he's like a poker player.
Yeah, well, we don't know that yet. He's very mysterious at this moment. We don't know. We don't know who he is, but he's handsome. That's all we know. And yeah, she's like, "Where's Miss Fanny Bryce? I want to talk to her." And so she talks to him, and he's like, "Yeah." It's actually really funny because she's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Nick Arnstein." And then the screen like freezes in like a really freeze frame way to the point where I'm like, is this busted again? And it says,
Nicky Arnstein, what a beautiful, beautiful name.
in her head. Which I'm like, I don't know if that really is a beautiful name, but okay. So then the guy comes and is like, hey, how much am I getting paid? She's like, oh, I don't know, like 20 bucks a week. And
$20, what a beautiful amount.
But Nick is like, I'm actually scouting for a competitor, and he's gonna offer 30. And he's like, the other guy's like, no, 35, 40, 45, 50. And then Nick at this point is like, I'm not authorized to go over 50, so I think that's good enough.
He was just trying to get her more money.
Exactly. And so
Yeah,
he's like, he leaves. He's like, $50. I paid her $50 now. And he kisses her hand. And she's like, wait, what do you like? Who's the other competitor? He's like, there is none. I'm just a gambling man.
That's right.
He kisses her hand, and she sings about how he has no nail polish on his hands. And she sings, I'll never see him again, as he leaves, because he invites her out to go party or like have like a nice like dinner or something. She's like, no, I have like a party with my mom at the salon. It's very important. He's like, okay, I understand. All right, I'll catch you next time. So then kids running around back at home, and there's a telegram from
Nick.
It says no, it's from Ziegfeld.
Oh yeah, Ziegfeld Follies.
Ziegfeld Follies. It's a telegram for her and her family, and everyone's like, "Oh, someone's dead." And
that's the real shit, though.
Well, actually, they didn't know who it was from. Excuse me. They just know. They know it's for Fran.
Yeah.
And Eddie, it's a cool moment where it's just like simple enough to be like, time has passed, and she's like talking to Eddie. He's like, I gotta change this song, and he's like, what do you mean? It's like, I've been singing it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Good way to show that time has passed.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
So mom got the telegram, and she reads it, and Ziegfeld's like, meet me at Tuesday at 11. And she's like, oh my God, how could this be? Like, it's coming too easy. Like, I haven't suffered enough. I can't get my big break now.
Right.
And
he has to have some strife.
And she's like, well, whatever she says to tell me to do, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she does her whole song in front of him, and he hires her on the spot. She's ready to go. She's like, great. You will do this. You're like a bride. You will do like a cool part of the first act. She's like, cool, love the first act, but also you'll be in the finale. And she's like, okay. So she walks back, and she starts reading the script a little bit. She's like, wait a second. She walks back. At this point, Siegfried's gone up to the top of like kind of the balcony to kind of be like overview and watch the play, because they're going to do some rehearsals.
Right.
So you can't see him. So he's like God. Even like one of the actors is like, he goes up there to be like God. She's like, hey, look it up there. Ziegfeld, whatever. I don't want to be in the finale. And everyone gets quiet on set. Like, the set goes quiet. And he's like, what did you say?
Mm-hmm.
I can't see what you're saying. I don't like the words in it. I don't think it makes sense. It says it here like, I just don't like it.
Okay.
It says like, it talks about how beautiful I am, and I don't like that. It's weird.
Right.
It's weird. People are going to laugh at me. Mm. So he's like, he comes down. He's like, I'm going to come down there. Hold on a second. Everyone's like,
never comes down.
He's like, oh shit, he never comes down. Even someone named Georgia James, I don't know if she ever appears, but she's like, tell him you're wrong. He's like, why would I say that? I think I'm right. She's like, well, if you want to keep working here, tell him I'm wrong. She's like, I'm not going to say that. It's like, well, nice knowing you. She leaves, and he comes down. Honestly, like, this guy seems like nice Walt Disney.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy.
Like, he's like,
he's never rude to anybody.
He has reasonable requests. He's very stern. He has like things ways he wants it.
Yeah.
But like, he's never a dick about it. He's always just like, do this.
He's also
like, okay.
He's also never, in my half of the movie, he's never put Fanny or anybody else in any sort of position where they feel like they have to choose one over another, basically. You know, like, I don't know.
What one over another?
Like, has to choose like personal life over work.
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
You know, like it never feels like he's asking too much of anybody.
He's just a somewhat okay boss.
He's a nice guy.
He's fine.
For the time?
For the time, you're right.
To the point where I'm watching the movie, I'm like, this probably wasn't what this was.
This is probably the most unrealistic part of the
movie. This guy literally had like, ladies running around in fucking skimpy outfits dancing shit.
It's true, but he's like super nice about it. And he's like, that's nice.
I'm a cool guy.
It makes money, whatever. The audience loves it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he's like, listen, you're going to sing this no matter what. She's like, if I sing I'm beautiful and all this stuff. I'm going to be sent back home because people are just going to laugh at me. And he's like, okay, well, listen, I need a strong singer in the finale, and you're one of the best we have. So I want you to do it. And he says, fine. You win this time. You win unfairly, but you win. He didn't like that. He didn't like that line.
Yeah.
He was a little upset by that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we cut to actually a show of the finale. The first time she's going on stage. It's the finale. It's a bunch of ladies about being like beautiful brides, and I don't know what this play is really about, but
So the Ziegfeld Follies was a bunch of like sketches, essentially. It was a bunch of like scenes.
This is a real person?
Yes.
Whoa. I had no idea.
Ziegfeld was a real guy.
Ziegfeld.
This is based on a real guy.
So that's why you're so upset when I kept calling him Siegfried. You're like, now it matters.
I was like, this is a real person.
Okay.
Like Fanny is based on a real person too.
Oh wow.
Like I said, like the Omar Sharif character is also based off a real guy.
Oh, okay. When you said that, I thought you were just like, I don't know, maybe they had inspiration from a white guy.
All of these people are based off real people.
Okay.
The Ziegfeld Follies back in the day was literally like a bunch of different scenes, basically of just like women and like men like dancing in perfect unison, little like sequences and stuff. And Fanny was like one of the people who was part of this troupe essentially.
Gotcha.
And they would just like travel from town to town doing these like little sequences. So there wasn't. It was like a sketch show, but rather than a bunch of sketches, it was a bunch of dancing sequences and stuff.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
Okay. So they're just a bunch of people, ladies in like white outfits, all flaunting themselves, looking pretty skimpily, all there, and they're all talking and singing, and they're all like in white and the pasties and all that stuff. And then there's a big scene where there's a whole bunch of them. They all start walking down, and they all talk. It's almost like the Jellicle Ball, where it's like it becomes this.
Yes.
The winter bride is typified by her wind, and she is elegant in the winter, despite not being cold.
Different names.
It's basically that, and they all and then like now the autumn bride is fancy, and she's not too uptight, and all this sort of stuff. And they go to each bride, and then he said, now here is the singing bride, and it cuts to Barbara Streisand. Everyone in there was in like pretty and dainty as well. Barbara Streisand, they reveal her, and she's pregnant, and everyone starts laughing, and Mr. Ziegfeld is pissed. He is pissed by this.
He didn't expect this.
And then
she was right.
And they all sing. She sings, "I'm a walking illustration of his adoration," which brings a much different context when she's pregnant.
Right, exactly.
And like everyone's laughing. Her mom is in the audience. She's the one who's actually kind of embarrassed, but she's still finding it funny.
Right.
And so this whole thing goes over. They're laughing. They're thinking it's hysterical. Everyone in the audience.
So did Fanny decide this to like lean into the
So
thing?
what? Yeah, she does admit that like it was a last minute thing. She just kind of saw like a pillow in the dressing room and was like, "This would be funny.
Yeah,
let's do this. I need a way to like deflect from thinking of myself as a beautiful person."
Right,
because
like, she doesn't view herself as a beautiful person.
No, well, also like if her entire like upbringing, all her people are like,
right.
Ugly.
She's never been called beautiful.
Yeah,
stuff, yeah.
It's just like you're ugly. Just do whatever. You're never gonna be popular. It's kind of like. She's been brought up this way. It's just you're only a funny girl. You're not actually a pretty girl.
Yeah.
So Ziegfeld goes and like grabs her and is like, "We're going into your private dressing room to have a talk with you." And everyone's like, "Congratulations, that's amazing. Everyone loved it. This is such a good start, and you're doing so well." And he's like, "Okay, what is this?" She's like, "I didn't plan it. I swear, I couldn't do it straight. They would have laughed at me. But now they're laughing at me in a different way. They're laughing with me. They're not laughing at me. It's different. I can own this joke." And he's just like, "Okay, I kind of understand." And then at this point, the mom and the aunt come in and they're like, "Oh, this is so hilarious. This is such a funny thing. You're a genius, Ziegfeld, for doing this or thinking this." And they're like, "Okay, well, get out of here." And they leave. But after hearing all this, he's like, "I ought to fire you.
But I'm going to give you a raise."
He says, "But I hate to get rid of talent.
Yeah.
But if you disobey me one more time, I'm going to definitely fire you this time." And she says, "Okay, don't worry. I'll play it straight next night." And he says, "No, you'll do it exactly as you did tonight." She's like, "You mean you liked it?" He says, "No, but the audience did." And she says, he starts to leave. And he says, "Well, actually, I want to choose my own. If that's okay, I want to choose my own song at the beginning."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What? You want to choose your own song?" He's like, "Listen, we got 6 curtain calls." And then at this point, another knock at the door, and it's Nick Armistein. He's back.
Nick's back.
He's back, and it seems like he knows Ziegfeld a little bit, and like just suggested her for the part or something. And he's like, "You did so good." And he's like, "You're not fired. You're not fired now, Siegfried, but you're a pain in the butt." Or Siegfried says, "You're not fired yet, Fanny, but you're a pain in my butt." And he leaves.
Okay. He's talking to himself.
Nick, no,
I had to fire you.
I had to fire you. He looks in the mirror.
Yeah.
Instead of hello, gorgeous, it's like hello, fired man.
You're really pissing me off.
You're really
Siegfried.
pissing me off. I'm going to see you at the unemployment line. So then,
So Nick walks in.
Nick walks in and is like, he's like, I was in the neighborhood. I thought it was amazing. You did such a good job. He's like, you want to go out? And she's like, no, I have a thing in the neighborhood. He says, yeah, I get it. She's like, you should actually come out. It'll be fun. It's just like a little neighborhood thing. It won't be very fancy. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll come out. Why not? And she's like, oh, shit, okay. I'll change. So they go to the party. They have a big party at the salon. I'm like, this looks awesome. I'm just hanging out at a bar. Everyone's having a good
old
time.
ladies.
Old ladies are gambling.
Yeah.
They find him. They want to gamble with him. He's excited to play some poker. Mom is a little suspicious of him, though. She's
Why?
like, well,
racist.
No. She says, to me, he fits in too well. And she says, to me, when a person's a stranger, they should act a little strange.
Interesting.
Like, he fits in too well. He's
not being
amicable
himself
with everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he actually has like a winning hand. You see when he's playing poker with some ladies. Like
Right.
he got like all 4 aces in his hand,
Jesus Christ.
which is funny because it's like, what is an easy way to show that you have a good hand for people who maybe have no language
That
of
doesn't
like
know
poker works?
anything.
It's like
Yeah.
all the aces are probably pretty good. And he's like, I'm gonna fold. I don't have anything. And she's like, oh, and the lady's like, I have 2 pairs. I win. Yay. And
Why did he fold? Because he just wants people to have fun.
He just wants people to have fun, man.
Yeah.
So he finally gets a chance to talk to old Fanny alone. And they go out to the alleyway, and there's even someone out there who's like, hey, great job. And they do a whole thing. They talk, and he's like, why you like being lonely? Like, you're oh so alone. Like, you're such a handsome guy. He's like, oh, I like being free. And she's like, well, I like, being busy and having people rely on me. And he's like, being busy is also a lonely experience too, right? Like, me being free and doing whatever I want, but also being busy all the time is very lonely.
Right.
She's like, yeah, well, now I'm going to sing a song about how being a person who relies on people is the luckiest person in the world. And he's like, all right, well, I got to go down to Kentucky. I breed horses on the side. I'll invite you.
Not personally.
Yeah, I know. But I'll invite you, but I know you're in the show tomorrow. And she's like, oh, okay. And they do a little kiss. He gets in the car,
They kissed each other.
and he leaves. And she does a reprise of her song, People Relying on Other People, but does it sadly.
Oh.
It's very interesting.
This is what I dig about this movie is like it's like the same lyrics, but like the way that
the context
and the way that Barbara's performing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
It
she knows
matters
exactly how to
so
do
much.
it. Yeah, it's really good.
So she arrives later on a train. They're in Baltimore now, and all the girls are there. They're all taking photos. They get a photo. They want to get a photo of her star, and this is months later. And it's so fancy. And then they're leaving, and she sees Nick there again.
Yeah,
and it's been a year.
And also Omar.
Yeah, I know. It's been a year since she met him. She says so. It's a little weird that like he never called her back after he went to Kentucky or anything. Like they kissed. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah. Well, did they have each other's numbers?
I feel like he knows.
I guess he would know. Yeah.
Yeah. She performs at a show all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, yeah. So he's like, oh, I'm waiting for another girl in New York, but you want to come out to dinner with me?
What a neg.
I know.
Like, oh, I'm actually waiting for some other girl. She's like kind of funny
named
too.
Elsie coming in. It's like another girl, and she's like, well, you can go meet with her. I have other plans. And he's like, oh, here she is right now, and it's a horse. It comes out. It's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, we got a lot to catch up on. She says, well, I'll maybe meet you. He says, no, all right. I'll put up a reservation for dinner.
Okay.
And I'll wait for you if you change your mind. I'll be there if you ever change your mind.
Oh my gosh.
And she says, well, no law against waiting.
Mm-hmm.
People do it all the time. And she walks away. And then she goes to her hotel and talks to her friend Emma, who we saw at the beginning of the movie, and is like, I told him that there's no law against waiting, and people do it all the time. I got him good.
I totally didn't just think of that right now.
Yeah. And she's like, then she starts talking like, why do I even need to meet him? I'm not even hungry. Like, why do we have to catch up? Like, it's so annoying. And then Emma's like, so why are you going? She says, who said I'm going? Cut to her going. They do this a lot. They're always like, she's always like, I'm not doing this.
This is a thing from back in the day. Yeah.
Just back in the day. That's a trope that is forever in movies, buddy.
That is very true. Yeah, that one time with the little kid's like, I'm not gonna dance the Cotton Eye Joe. There's no way I'm dancing the Cotton Eye Joe. And then
Cotton Eye Joe, you're doing it terribly.
Did it, the Cotton Eye Joe. I've been married a long time ago. Hard cut too. There's no way I'm dancing the Cotton Eye Joe. I'm never gonna do it. I don't know how to dance the Cotton Eye Joe. Hard cut.
Always Cotton Eye Joe every time. Yeah. So then let's see.
So she shows up.
She shows up, all purple with a purple fan, dressed up all fancy. And they go into this private dining, the most private dining lounge. It's got, got a door and everything. She goes in there. She sees that like there's a nice dinner set up with your chairs. But then she looks and there's a lounge chair in the back. And she looks at it. And she goes, "Are you planning on making advances?" And he says, "No, I wasn't planning on it, but I mean, it might not be a bad idea." She says,
"He's so fucking smooth."
And he says, "Before or after dinner?" And it's like, "What's this? A weird egg?" He's like, "Oh, it's a blue marble egg. I want you to have it." She's like, "Oh, that's interesting. Well, I hope to see you later too." And he says, "I never know my plans." Like, "Oh, okay." But he says, "All right, let's address the elephant in the room. Why didn't I call you when I got back from Kentucky?" And she's like, "Yeah, why didn't you?" And he says, "I wanted to stay away from you."
Why?
And she says, "What?" He says, "You're heading towards something you couldn't possibly know how to handle."
My dick.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And she says, "What makes you think I can handle it now?" And he says, "Well, I think you will. And if you don't, I think it's time to learn." And I was like, "Oh, that dick must be crazy."
Shit. Whoa. So many good lines.
I know. He's got bangers.
So fucking smooth.
So he orders food in French.
Oh, very impressive.
And he's like, I hope that's okay. And she's like, "I don't know. I would have ordered the roast beef and potatoes." And he says, "Oh, I did."
In French.
In French. She's like, "Oh, if I don't know what you're going to order, how am I supposed to know about when you want to make an advance on me?" And she says, "Oh, I'll be more direct." And then he starts singing an entire song about how forward he is. And he says, "You are a woman and I am a man. Let's kiss." She's like, "I don't know." And then she keeps singing in her head like, "I like this guy, I guess, but this is a lot."
Yeah.
And then that's the end of my half.
And so I'm in the middle of this scene and I'm like, I don't know anything what's going on. I just know she's a funny girl. And she's just singing about, she's like, "I don't know what to do if he wants to make advances." Because it's clear, like, like she said, like, she's never seen herself as beautiful. She's never seen herself as, someone to be lusted after. And right now she's being lusted after someone that is like very attractive and very charming. And she's like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, so she's, very like nervous. She keeps sort of like backing away from him, but not in a way where she doesn't want, it's like, this is again, the strength of this scene where it's like, she clearly wants his advances, but she's worried that she's going to like disappoint him or worried that she doesn't know how to handle
Which is very
him.
clear.
It is.
And you got that within seeing the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah,
that's
know
how good this movie is.
It's true. It is. Because you could tell, like, she's in love with him and she's infatuated, but she is just like, I'm worried that, like, I don't know how to handle this kind of feeling because I've never felt it before.
Exactly.
It's really good. And so she sort of keeps backing up and she doesn't really know what to do. And then slowly but surely, she starts, like, accepting his kisses and starts kissing him back. And she's, like, overthinking.
They use that lounge chair?
She's on the lounge chair and she sort of, like, keeps overthinking everything. She doesn't really know what to do. And she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then, like, she's like overthinking it, and then he just sort of kisses her, and then he says, "Does it take more explanation than this?" Like, sort of just like mentally shutting her up, where it's like your mind is getting in the way of what you really want. You're overthinking this right now. So then they kiss, and they fuck.
Oh, nice.
Oh, they fuck.
Whoa, wait, what?
They fuck. We don't see it, but like,
okay. You made it sound like it was like
hardcore,
now there's the craziest sex scene you've ever seen in your life
in Technicolor.
That's why
CinemaScope.
I was like, that's why they had to remove this scene.
It was nuts. And so then they cut to a bunch of old Jewish ladies playing cards, which now I know. One of which is like, pretty sure that's the voice of Betty Boop. And her mom is like, "Yeah, I was on the phone with her recently. She sounded very different. Like she sounded like a different person. Like, we would just be talking and all of a sudden she would be like giggling, out of nowhere." And so she can sort of tell that like her her little Fanny is growing up.
Oh, little Fanny.
Her little Fanny's growing up and fallen in love with a man. So we cut to a dinner scene where Fanny's eating. She's eaten 2 lobsters, and the person
Hell yeah.
the person behind the counter is like, "If you eat this third one, it's free." And she's like, "I don't know what to do." And then Nick's like, "Whatever, man, fucking do what you want." And she's like, get that sucker ready, boil that sucker. And so they're just sort of like talking, and they're like talking about their life and how much they love each other. But then
Strawkoch. That's how you say her name. But that, yeah, she's the voice of Betty Boop.
Yeah. And so then as they're like doing it, they're sort of talking about his life, and
third lobster is probably the most relatable thing I've ever heard. I'll fucking get that free third
Why
lobster.
not? You know, if it's on somebody else's dime, man. So they're talking, but then he sort of like reveals, he's like, "Look, Fanny, like you are, you know, a traveling entertainer. I have to travel too, like for my job. Like I am a gambler. I move from town to town, you know." And so she's like heartbroken. She's like, "Are we?" Like she says something like, we'll have each other from boats and trains. Like, you know, we'll wave at each other from boats to trains. This idea of like, you know, we'll only really meet every once in a while, but we can never really like fully have a full relationship, basically. And it's heartbreaking. And so she's like, "You know what? I don't want that third lobster anymore." She's like lost her appetite. And she leaves.
Unrelatable character now.
And then he follows her out, and you can see he doesn't want her to be sad. It's just like, he's like, "I thought we had an understanding," but it's not that sort of thing where like it feels like the like rug got pulled out from under them. I think it was just sort of like now the reality is starting to set in, you know. And he's like, "I admit, like I love you, like I do love you," and it means so much to her. I think she even says something like, "This is the first time that anyone's like made her feel beautiful." It's like really, it's a really like charming little scene, and you can feel their connection. And this is where I'm like, man, like this fucking chemistry is so strong. Like they aren't doing anything like absurd here. They're just looking at each other and like holding each other and kissing each other, but you really feel this connection between these two people. And so then she's about to board her train to go to Chicago from Baltimore, because that's where the next show is. And then she gets flowers from Nick. And then flowers from Nick are like, "Good luck," you know. And he's like, "I'm gonna get on a boat." He's like, "I'm gonna get on a train from Baltimore to New York, and you're gonna get on this train from Baltimore to Chicago, and going to totally different places." And he's like, "I'm gonna go from Baltimore to New York, and then I'm gonna get on this ship, and I'm just gonna gamble on the ship, basically, to like Jacksonville." That's the plan, essentially.
Sounds like
so she knows what his plan is. I
can't believe back then gambling was just a viable career.
It's kind of nuts when he says like, "This is my job." I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Apparently he's also into like
crypto.
Yeah, crypto. He's also into like oil. Like he's
okay, that's a real moneymaker.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's made up in like brought up in your
He
half.
breeds horses too, so.
Well, yeah, that's also gambling though.
Well, you breeding horses is a gambling. You just sell a horse.
It's gambling. Like it's obviously gambling. Like
I guess it's definitely adjacent. It's like saying like I make slot machines. It's like that's not gambling, but you make the slot machines.
Yeah, but it's still in the like umbrella of gambling.
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
Like,
I guess
you could say like, "Oh yeah, I don't gamble for a living, but I do like make playing cards that are used in."
I don't play PC games. I just build computers.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like similar.
It's adjacent. In the same universe.
Yeah.
What are those horses being used for? Who knows? You know?
Yeah. Probably glue.
Yeah, that's right. So she's at the train station.
Imagine like raising a horse, be like, "This horse gonna make the best glue." Let me tell you, Elmer's gonna fucking come, dude.
This thing's got big bones. We are going to turn this shit into glue.
It's all bones, baby.
I called this horse Marshmallow.
Imagine there's no other way to make glue. It's just from horses.
There's no other way to do it.
No other way to do it.
Where is the way to make glue other than horses, Ethan? I don't know.
I don't know.
Is it only horses?
It's the joke. I felt like it was just kind of like an afterthought of like, well, we have these horses. We
might as well put them into glue.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Like we had to put the horse down because it tripped a little bit and it can't run as fast as it can anymore. So we got to put it down. So we turn it into glue, right? That's the joke.
Yeah.
But like, clearly there's other things you can make glue out of, right?
I don't know.
It can't just be horse. Like horses
but then
don't have different
why put
bones.
the glue in there?
What do you mean put the glue in
or
there?
Why put the horse in there?
Because the horse is just dead anyway. You might as well use it.
You can put anything in the glue then.
Yeah, but you eat like cows, you know.
Oh, I see. You can't eat a horse.
Yeah, no one wants to eat horses. They're cute.
Some people eat horses.
Some people eat horses, some people eat dogs. It's fine. That's how it goes, you know. But, people are going to get upset if you throw dogs in the glue, you know. Horses, it's like the horse is dead. What are you gonna do?
Isn't like the Elmer like logo like
I'm pretty sure it's a cow.
a cow?
Yeah, it's a cow.
It's a cow, right?
Yeah, why is it a cow?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's strange. It's a strange. It's strange.
Well, because they didn't
phenomenon.
want to show the cows.
didn't want to put on words.
The cows are like, we run this shit. We kill all those horses.
That's what it's
just like the Chick-fil-A cows.
This is Animal Farm shit. It's just like the cows are the ones that run the glue factory.
Yeah.
And they're also the ones that fucking kneecap all the horses.
Well, this is a really boring answer. At one time, there was a company named Borden Inc. It had a line of dairy products, and those products had a cartoon mascot, Elsie the cow.
Yeah.
Elsie had a mate, Elmer the bull, and they became a mascot for non-dairy products.
Okay. Well,
So,
that was pretty
that's
lame.
pretty boring.
Anyway, she gets flowers from Nick at the train station. And she's like, I'm not going to Chicago. I'm going to get on the next train to New York, and I'm going to meet Nick there. That's the plan. And all of her friends are like, what are you fucking doing? You're going to piss off, Ziegfeld. You're gonna lose your job. Like you can't do this. And she's like, I need to pick my life over my career. And so she gets on the phone, talks.
Well, that's always been the thing, right? Is that she always is like choosing between him and being like, I want to go hang out with my parents.
And so she's like, you know
mom.
what? I'm not gonna choose my career anymore. I'm in love with this man, Nick. I'm gonna even if I'm throwing this away, I'm willing to do it for Nick. Which he doesn't end up like throwing it away. Obviously, like Ziegfeld realizes her importance. There's this great scene where she's on the phone with him, and she's like, I'm not going to Chicago. And he's like, what do you want? What you want? And then she like takes the receiver and puts it against the receiver of the phone and puts it against like the top of the phone, and so it creates this like annoying noise
sound.
Yeah, and she's like, that's what you sound like right now. So yeah, she gets on a train, she gets on a boat, she gets on all this stuff. She's ready to go to New York. She sings this song about how what's the song about? She says she doesn't want she's not going to let them rain on her parade.
Oh,
which is an interesting reference to Hello Dolly, where she mentions that she doesn't want the parade to pass her by. It's a whole
lot
song.
of parade stuff.
A lot of parade talk.
parades.
A lot of travel as well. This movie has to do. She's getting on a train to New York. In the last movie, she got on a train to New York.
New York's always a destination.
And then she's also so she gets to New York. Nick's already gone, so then she gets on a boat, and there's this shot of her on the boat heading to the ship that Nick is on, and it looks exactly like the end shot of Yentl. Like it's exactly the same shot basically, except for not as good as Yentl in my opinion. But yeah, it's like it's weird how often like travel comes up in these Barbara Streisand movies.
Apparently they still fucking use horses for glue. Like
Still a lot?
Yeah, like it's vegan glues are very rare.
Vegan glues are very rare.
I mean, they also do use other animals though for glue.
Oh, well, I think that's fine then.
They use
like hippos,
cattle, rabbits, and fish.
Fuck the fish.
Well, rabbits. That's so small.
I feel bad for the rabbits. Fuck the fish. The fish can be turned into glue.
Maybe that's fair. Yeah, it is wild though. That's just like
it's just animal bones. That's all glue is.
It's collagen mostly. Yeah.
What about like wood glue? So every fucking person who makes like every single person that makes like a stool or whatever, not poop, but like a stool that they can sit on, like they are no longer.
Most of the time,
vegan?
it's mostly like hooves and bones and stuff like that. Usually, like it's pretty rough.
You can't wait for them to die.
You
can't wait for them to
You
die.
probably
natural
could.
Causes.
Like it doesn't matter. It's not like it's bones. Like bones, you'd melt down the collagen.
Yeah, but
fine.
you got to keep the fucking glue factory running. You can't just wait around for fucking,
the capitalist glue mongers over here.
Yeah, people need things to stick to other things,
Yeah.
Gorilla glue, is that made of gorillas?
You never seen how sticky this glue grits unless it's
made out of gorilla bones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's nuts. It's just wild. I was like, is there any other? It's like, no, it's collagen mostly. So it's like wild that they mostly still use that.
That's fucking crazy.
So maybe those horses are going to that glue
I feel
factory.
bad about I use a lot of glue because I'm an arts and crafts boy.
Wait.
Oh
no.
wait.
It's mostly synthetic materials. I lied.
You fucking asshole. I was having like a full I'm such an asshole. Like, I'll buy the glue and then I will misplace the glue. And rather than look for the glue, I'll just buy more glue. I have contributed to so much animal harm in my life without even realizing it.
You know what? This is the problem with looking up things on the middle of the podcast. But I had to know.
Did you fucking take the AI answer at the top?
No, I did never.
Good.
I'm using horserookie.com. They say it's no longer made there. Gorilla Glue's not made from gorillas or horses.
Thank God.
So
All right.
it's it's
Intermission.
All right, we're not talking about glue anymore and horses. We're over it. We're talking about Funny Girl
So,
again.
At this point, I was like, what is gonna happen? The intermission has ended. She's getting on a ship, gonna go to Nick, and I'm like, dramatically, she's gonna show up, and Nick is gonna be like in the arms of another woman or something. Because I don't know this fucking Nick.
He has like a thing. He has an energy about him where I'm like, I like this guy. He's fun. He's charming.
I love this dude, but
he's a little like the mom.
Yeah,
like he's a little too charming. He's a little too perfect.
I'm more like in any fucking movie. Like it's not even. This is not an indictment of Omar Sharif. I'm like any guy.
Oh, so you're not racist. Good enough.
Exactly. I'm just like in any fucking movie. If a woman is like willing to throw her career away for a guy. And that guy is like, look, I gotta travel. It's a part of my job. It's like, what are you fucking doing on those traveling dates? You know, I'm like,
well, the first time he met her, he'd have two ladies in tow, and he's just like, oh, I'm watching them for a friend.
Right. So it's like, again, like nothing against the actor. It's genuinely just like dramatically, I'm like, this is how this works out. She's gonna show up. Nick's gonna break her heart. She's gonna like dive back into into like performing on stage and all that shit. But no, she shows up and he is so happy. He is so happy that she arrived. And they kiss and embrace. And he's happy that she surprised him. And they go out to dinner. And I wrote down, Omar Sharif is so goddamn fucking cute in this movie. They have amazing chemistry. She's like, when two people really like each other, I can't say. And then he's like, no, tell me, what is it? And she goes, well, you're all highfalutin and all, but, when two people really like each other, sometimes one of them will propose to the other one. And he says, oh, well, that's very interesting. Where I come from, because they're talking about like how she's from like a lower socioeconomic class and he's from, fancy schmancy places. He's like, that same thing happens where I'm from too. And then she's like, oh, well, maybe you should consider doing it. And he goes, well, maybe I will. I'll think about it. And then they like the food and the drinks come by. And then she's like, well, why don't you just do it already? Come on, let's do it. Like, let's get married or whatever. And so he's like, I want to propose to you, but I don't want to get married until I've won enough money to like support you, basically. Because this is like, there's a lot of cash on this ship.
Sounds like he's very rich, but okay.
Well, he wants to.
I need to support you because you gonna quit your job.
Well, okay, and this is. Okay, you've brought up so many good points here. Let me tackle them one by one.
Break them down.
One, you've mentioned he's rich.
Does he have glue? Does he have a horse glue factory?
He does not have a horse glue factory.
Okay, got it. So
that would make it very shady. Well, here's the thing: is he takes all the money he makes on gambling and just pours it back into the gambling. Like he doesn't actually use any of the money for himself.
He's like the Mr. Beast of the era. I got it. Yeah, he's using all that money to make
He has a lot of
videos.
Weird, thumbnail photos of him smiling like a weirdo.
And you're like, damn, he's so fucking charming. Despite feeling like there's something sinister behind him.
Yes. So like he's well-to-do. He has money, but like all the money he has, he just pours right back into the gambling. And so he's like, this is going to be my last big gambling mission. And if I make enough money here, then I'll be able to support you. But you're right. Because it's like she can make money. She is like a highly sought after performer at the Ziegfeld Follies.
He literally negotiated a higher salary for her the first time they met.
Yes. But he says, and I wish I had written this down. I wanted to write this down. I forgot to do this.
It's okay.
But he says this line that at first when he said it, I was like, he says something like, you never have to work a day in your life. The way this works is I support you. You never have to do anything. Yeah. He says this in this way where like, this is the rule. Like I never want you to but he says it in a way
men have to provide.
Yes. He says it in that way, but he says it in a way where I'm like, well, maybe he's saying this in like a cute way. Like I never want you to have to worry about money.
Yeah.
But as the movie continues, you realize, no, this is something that means a lot to him. Like he doesn't feel like a good like person if his partner is like paying for him, basically. Like he has an ego about it.
I cannot relate less. I would love to be taken care of. Put me in I want to be a little baby boy. I want to be just lounging around the house.
But he says this
doing nothing. Provide for me.
I'm like, and like she makes good money. Like clearly,
she's the talent.
Yeah. I mean, I understand like, you want to be able to support, like you want to be there like, if you want
to like
You want to pay bills. You
Yeah,
don't
you
want
want
to
to help
bills.
around a little
Right.
bit. You know, you don't have to be the breadwinner, but you want to help out.
But like I think, but he's like, I want to be the man making.
Oh
all
yeah,
the
that's a
money,
very old school.
which is a
way of
very
life.
old school thing.
I mean, this is set. We didn't mention when this is taking place, but this is around like 1920, like right before World War One, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. But he says this thing sort of offhand.
Right after World War One, excuse me.
And so he's like, if you want to, you can sit on a game, but you have to be very. You can't make any sort of noise. You can't make any sort of facial expressions if you want to sit on my game. But, you know, she sits on the game and she's incredibly fidgety.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. She's too much.
She tries to keep a straight face, even though she can see her husband's cards and other people's cards too. And so this one guy's like, I think you're. He like looks. He looks at Nick and he's like, I think you're bluffing. And so he puts in more money. And then Nick is not bluffing. But, you know, it's like basically Nick was using, you know, Fanny as a means of actually getting more money out of this guy, basically. And so, you know, he's like, you know, Fanny, I think this is a little bit too much for you. Why don't you go back, you know, to our room, and I'll meet you in an hour or two after I'm done gambling. And so, you know, later that night, she's, you know, he walks in and she's like, what happened? Did you do it? Did you do it? And up until then, she's mentioned that she's always wanted to be, oh no, this
funny girl.
No, this lady. Oh God, there was this lady.
Not funny girl.
A not funny girl. A married girl.
Ooh, a singing girl.
Is it Ruby? Oh
Ruby.
God, what is this woman's name?
RuPaul. She wants to be RuPaul.
RuPaul. What the fuck is this woman's name? It was this woman that is married, and it's like a name. Oh my God, I'm so pissed. Sadie, married lady. There's this woman named Sadie that she knows that is married happily.
Okay.
And she mentions this to Nick earlier on and says, like, I always wanted to be Sadie. And he's like, who's Sadie? And she says, Sadie is
all of our audience right now when they're like, what name are you trying to get rid of?
Yes. I'm sorry. Sadie.
Okay.
Sadie was the name. And so he walks in after gambling and he calls her Sadie. And she's like, what are you talking about, Sadie? And then instantly she's like, oh, and he reveals the money that he's gotten.
Oh, happily ever after.
So now they're gonna get married, and so she wakes up the next morning in a massive room with a massive fucking fuck off ring on her finger, and they move into a massive house, and this is like, I want to say maybe a 5-minute montage, and it is fucking gorgeous. Their house is gorgeous. They're so happy. She's like, she says that she'll do her job, sit at home and become a slob. Like,
I love when things go great.
Everything is going so wonderful.
But I saw the beginning of this movie and she seemed kind of sad.
She seemed kind of forlorn.
I'm kind of bummed.
And she says that they have a baby girl. Like, everything is going so well. And after having the baby and after moving into their like country house, Fanny wants to get back into showbiz. She wants to work again. And she slowed down a bit after having the baby, but she's putting work into it. And Nick arrives home one of the days, and he's like, "We're gonna have to sell this country house because I haven't struck oil yet." Basically, now his job is he's given up on gambling and he's gone into the oil business, and he has not been able. And that also,
I was gonna say, in some ways, that's also a gambling business.
Big gamble, and it sounds like he's not lucky anymore. He hasn't been able to strike oil. He's gotten a little more desperate, and so because he wants to be the breadwinner, because he wants to be the one to provide, and because he doesn't want her to spend any of her money on him, they have to end up selling this country house that they had moved into, and they have to get a smaller apartment in New York. Near where, you know, she can work and perform and stuff and rehearse. And things are starting to go a little bit poorly. Nick goes to a gambling hall that is run by his friend Tom. Tom. And Tom's like, hey, so you know, I hear things aren't going too good. And Nick's like, it'll be fine, everything will be okay. And then he's like, I think I might want to gamble in here. And Tom's like, and this is opening night of Fanny's new show. And Tom is like, well, I mean, I don't know if I would recommend that, Nick. Like, there's some pretty high rollers in here, and they might, I hear you're not doing too well. And he's like, no, I just need to, like, you know, let off some steam. And then like a couple hours later, at like 9 p.m., he's lost a shit ton of money, and it's clear he just doesn't have that same sense of like poker face and confidence anymore. And Fanny's at her show, and she's like, he's not in his seat. Like, he missed my opening night. And so that night, Nick comes back home, but Fanny's already home, and Nick is like, "How was the show?" And she's doing like the silent treatment.
Yeah.
And he's like, "How was the after party?" And finally she's like, "There was no after party, Nick, because I didn't want to go to a party because I was feeling very upset because you weren't there." Yeah.
Yikes.
And it's all
fucked up.
Yeah, and he says he's lost his poker face. He says he lost a lot of money. And she says, look, and at first she's angry at him, but then as he starts to like explain what happened and how he's been feeling, she honestly starts to sort of change her tune. She starts to feel bad for him, and she's like, your luck will change, like everyone's unlucky some of the time. And then he's like, how would you know? You're always lucky. You're never unlucky, which is kind of fair, but also she did come from like poverty. She has had to work for it. She did get success quickly, but like she did have to put herself out for that. Like,
it's true,
and so
also like he was lucky until then, right? Like,
he's also been very lucky until now.
Yeah.
So Fanny's mom talks to Fanny and says like, hey girl, like I love you. I'm not angry at you, but
this guy,
she says this really great thing. She's like, you need to love Nick less and help him more. She's like, you can't just like blindly love this man. You have to like listen to him and you have to like help him. You can't just like, and she's like, he's an adult. He'll get through whatever he's getting through. And her mom's like, girl, you're his wife. And part of being a wife is like listening to your husband and being there for them, not just loving them blindly, basically.
Yeah.
So Nick is in really fucking deep with this guy named Peterson. I don't know who Peterson is. Peterson is like, hey, Nick, you want to help me out with this like really shady bond deal? And instantly Nick is like, that sounds fucking shady, bro. I'm not getting anywhere near
gonna be
that.
Like, I'm in.
No, he's like, I don't want anywhere near that shit. And then Peterson's like, yeah, I guess if you married a Fanny Bryce, you got an easy meal ticket. And then that pisses Nick the fuck off. And Nick's like, fucking shakes Peterson like, how fucking dare you say
how
that
dare
shit
you?
to
My
me?
wife's so fucking not good. It's not as good as me. How dare you?
My wife's not rich.
My wife's not rich. My wife's not a moneymaker. I'm the moneymaker, bro.
So Nick comes back home and he's bought like this fuck off expensive toy for their kid, for their daughter. And then Fanny is in there.
Wait, what's the toy? Is it a talking robot?
It's not a talking robot.
Is this happy birthday, Polly? I don't know what the kid's name is.
It is a giant giraffe that he saw at FKO Schwartz.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool giraffe.
They could also use that for the glue factory afterwards.
They're gonna have to turn it. It's full of dead animals inside. So they were made back in the day.
Oh, it wasn't a real giraffe. Got it.
Yeah.
I thought it was maybe like a taxidermy giraffe.
No, it's a fluffy like plush giraffe.
Okay.
Yeah. So he brings it in and he's talking to like one of the like maids that they have. And he's just like, hey, I know you guys are behind. We've been behind paying you for 2 months. I'm going to pay you right now. I'm really sorry that you haven't been paid for 2 months.
Man, if I was a fucking maid and I got paid for 2 months, I'd be like, rent's due, motherfucker. I'm leaving.
Well, they say, actually, sir, Fanny's already paid us. Fanny's been paying us for the last 2 months and 3 months in advance.
Damn.
And Nick hears this and he's just like, oh, well, that's great. That's good. I'm happy you guys are getting paid. And then Tom shows up. And Tom, the guy that runs the gambling hall.
He's like, your wife's paying for your maids? You fucking cuck boy. You cuck boy. You suck, bro. That's fucking funny, bro.
In a lesser film, that's what would have happened. But this scene is so good.
Okay. I'm excited.
So Nick walks in, or Nick is already in. Tom walks in, and Fanny's there as well. And Fanny's like, hello, Nick. How's it going? And Nick's like, hey, I have a proposition for you, Nick. And Tom says this. Sorry, Tom says this to Nick. Tom says, Nick, I have a proposition for you.
Fanny's there.
Fanny's there as well. And Tom says, Nick, you know that I run a gambling hall.
Mm-hmm.
We have been very successful. I am planning on opening a second location, and I would really like for you to oversee it.
Cool.
And Nick is like, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And it sounds like everything's going well. And he's and then Nick says, whoa, wait. If you're gonna have another location, don't people need to put in some payment to like support the second, as getting like in the ground floor or something? We all want to like put in a certain amount of money in order to like pay for the opening costs of opening of the location. He's like, how much would that be? And Tom's like, oh, you don't, no, we just want you for your talent and your class and your abilities. You would end up paying off any month, like any amount that anyone would be putting in at a upfront cost. He goes, well, who else is getting in on this? And Tom says, oh, a couple guys. And Nick's like, well, how much are they paying? And he's like, well, they're all paying about $50,000. But like, again, Nick, we just want you for your talent and your ability. Like,
this is just a job.
This is just, and it's like, he's like, we know we will make that money back within the first month or so of you running the place.
Yeah.
And Nick looks over at Fanny and says, Fanny, how much are you paying him for me to have this job? And Fanny just sits there quietly and then says, I'm paying them $50,000, Nick. And then Nick says, I see. And then he says, well, Tom, this has been a really good meeting.
Even as someone who would still be like, all right, I'll work. But, even if someone says that, oh, this is good, though. This is good. This is good. This is good because, like, this is good shit. This is good shit because, like, he basically did the same thing for her.
You're right. You're right.
He hooked her up with Ziegfeld, right?
You're right. You're right.
He was like, you want to look at her and get her in on the ground floor here, and but because it was not monetary or whatever, it was just a favor. Yeah. But it's just like a similar thing where she's like, I'm here to help.
It's also, I think, a gendered thing.
Oh, for sure.
And Fanny's like, don't be mad at Tom. Like, this was my idea. I had to convince Tom to do this, basically. And Nick is like, I'm not upset at anybody. Tom, it's been great speaking with you. I'm not interested. And Tom ends up leaving. And then Nick says, and then Fanny's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did this. I didn't mean for it to go this way. And again, I'm like, I feel like this is a bit of like rewriting history. But Nick is like, I'm not upset at you, Fanny. You did nothing wrong. I'm what's wrong here. Like, he realizes that, like, he is no longer useful. He only has ever seen his use in their relationship as a monetary use. And now that he can no longer do that, he doesn't understand what he's doing.
Well, it's also interesting, though, is that, like, she loves him regardless of his use on that. And similar to how he liked her despite her thinking that she was not pretty.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. And it's very much like the tables have turned in some ways. He's not a strong enough person to, like, accept love for love's sake, as opposed to being like this whole ego behind of like, oh, I have to be pretty enough, or I have to be someone who provides, or something like that.
Exactly.
That's good shit.
It's some good shit. And so then Fanny's like, I've got my show tonight. I can't stay. And she's like, I don't want to leave like this. Like, I know we're in an argument right now and I don't want to leave. And Nick's like, it's totally fine. I'm not angry at you. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to go. And so she leaves. And then Nick walks over to the phone, picks it up and says, hey, Peterson, I'll do that Bond job.
Oh, you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So then Fanny leaves the stage. She's in this fucking absurd outfit, like this ridiculous wig. She walks into her dressing room, and inside is Ziegfeld and a couple other guys. And they're all very solemn. And Fanny's like, what's going on?
We killed your husband.
I'm like, is Nick fucking dead?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, Nick got in a bit of trouble. And Fanny's like, what kind of trouble? And they're like, he got like rolled into this sort of Bond scheme with this like shady guy named Peterson. And she's like, well, what happened? And they're like, well, it was embezzlement. It wasn't a good move.
Oh no, he Martha Stewarted it.
And they're very like kind of cagey about all the specifics. Basically,
her woman brain. Watch out.
I think they're like, we want you to keep acting for us. We don't want you to like run away to this like bigger, like horrible issue. Basically, also, so I'll actually wait for this. So basically, they're like, they say the police showed up. He got arrested. He's in prison. Like he's behind bars. Like they called a lawyer, but like it's not going good. Basically.
One thing we have to remember is that like we're like, oh man, I can't believe this man wouldn't accept this money from this woman. Back in the day, these women couldn't open bank accounts back then, or own property or any of that shit. Like at this time, so it's just kind of like wild that like for us it's like hard to comprehend, but I mean back then in the
maybe like reason like from a I guess so, yeah. It's just a completely different mind.
It's a completely different mindset, and like the fact that like even the laws like didn't even allow women to like even just do basic shit. I mean, people nowadays are still like, oh, I don't want my wife to make more money than me, and it's like, shut up. And that's nowadays, and like women can now own property and own bank accounts, and
they can live on their own
rights now at this point.
They can do exactly. But people, men are still like shitty like that.
Yeah, it's just fucking wild. But now it's good to think about it. Back then, even the law wasn't allowing.
This is why I'm like, I feel like this is kind of a rewrite, because I feel like Nick probably would respond in a much more hysterical way, like get upset, get angry,
be more mad, maybe.
Yeah, but no, he realizes it's. I think more he feels just like dejected and weak at this point, rather than feeling angry. Yeah. So Fanny hears about all this, hears that Nick is in jail and he's given himself up, and then right after hearing this news, she has to exit she has to get out of her outfit and her costume. She has to exit her dressing room and talk to the press.
Oof.
And there's this great moment where she's all by herself in the hallway. She can hear the press outside the door, and she's just like, and then she walks out the door and she's like, "Oh, what do you boys want to talk about? I can't think so good after that crazy thing." Like, she's completely playing a character in front of the press, and they're asking her questions like, they're like, "So we hear that Nick's in jail right now," and he goes, "Oh, well, now I'll know where he is at night." And like, she's completely acting like it's not affecting her whatsoever, like completely acting this like stage character in front of the press right now. And she's able to answer all these questions super effortlessly. It's not that big a deal. And then at one moment, one person says, "Do you still love him, Fanny Bryce?" And then she says, "My last name isn't Bryce. It's Armistad," or whatever the fuck his last name is. And then they're like, "Well, do you?" And she can't answer the question. And then she runs off because it's too difficult for her to like face
Even
it.
she can't even fake that.
Yeah. So during the court, Nick, even though they have the best lawyer in town for Nick, he pleads guilty immediately. He doesn't want to fight the charges. He's like, and then there's this great line afterwards where after he like pleads guilty, shocking his lawyer, Fanny goes to meet up with Nick afterwards before he's like, brought to like a prison or whatever. And there's this great line where Nick says like, I'll probably be put away for 2 years. If I'm lucky, I'll be out of prison in 18 months.
Just like Martha Stewart.
And then he says, "If I'm lucky." And as we know, he's not been lucky. And it's so good. It's such a good moment. And so he's like, "Fanny, I'm no good for you. I want you to divorce me." And he's like, I don't want to run in a race with you because I don't want to keep you back. And I can't keep up with you. Yeah. And he also
divorced his horse Elise. So, so she can run all the way, make all
horses,
the money.
Divorces.
Horses.
It's a great moment, but it's so aggravating to me because it's like a marriage isn't a race. God damn it, It's like it's not about keeping up with the other person.
Well, I mean, it's the thing. It's literally this movie's obviously diving deep in the gender roles, and how she was able to overcome the fact that like she's pretty, and she can understand that people are flirting with her and people like her for who she is. And, and he's overcoming the fact that like I can't provide anymore. I'm just a huge burden. I'm not able to give a woman what she needs, which is security and money and monetary value.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really, really cool, interesting way of like interpreting a relationship like this.
And it's handled in a really like Omar never plays his character as like angry. He plays him as
very
just
level-headed.
He plays him as this really sort of like empty, solemn dude, and it's like he's so good, and it's all in the face. Like it's like the way he's holding himself. Like there's this great moment when he's playing poker, and you can see he's got a bad hand, and he's got no confidence in what he's got, and like compare that to when we saw him play poker just like 30 minutes before, and it's a completely different person, and it's
even where he like fakes that he has a shitty hand.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
old ladies and folds.
It's just so good. It's just incredible acting, basically. And so she's like, "How about this? You go to prison, and then when you get out, if you still want to leave me, then we'll divorce."
Good compromise. That's a lot of time to think in prison about what you've done and what you want.
And so he says, he's like, "You are the strongest woman in the entire world." And they kiss each other, and there's so much love in this kiss. There's so much passion in it. It's beautiful. And then he says like, "Goodbye, funny girl," or whatever. And then he like walks out the door. And then she turns around and she starts singing about how she's a funny girl, but she sings it in this really sad way where she's like, "I'm good for a laugh." Like she's completely like cutting herself down. She's like, "All I am is a funny girl. I'm not a serious girl. I'm not a beautiful girl. I'm only a girl that people can laugh at and can be entertained by."
Well, like dealing with this sort of like heavy stuff with like, your husband being put in for basically embezzlement and fraud. It's just like, I'm not equipped for this.
Yeah, no, totally.
Like I hone my skill in being funny, and that's kind of all I got
here for.
And I've accepted that for a while, and it's mostly gotten me okay places, but like it doesn't fit every part of my life.
I can't be taken seriously as like a person.
That too, yeah.
So Fanny prepares for the show. Ziegfeld, her boss, checks in on her, and I was like, he seems cool. And then he's like, "Fanny, be happy. Like things are going okay for you. Like obviously your husband's in prison, but apparently this is like 2 years later. He's like, everything's gonna be fine. Like everything's gonna be okay. Like, and she's like, I'm worried about what he'll say. Like, I'm worried if he's gonna leave me. And he's like, don't worry about it. Like, whatever happens is gonna happen. You've always got people around. And so then he leaves, and then she's like preparing for the show, and then she looks in the mirror and she sees Nick behind her in the mirror, and I think she might say like "Hello, gorgeous" or something like
cute.
that. And then they hug and they tear up, and it's this really beautiful, like it's such a tense moment where like you don't know what he's gonna say because he's so quiet, and like she's like waiting for him to say something, and then she says, this is the moment she says that he made her feel beautiful. And then he says that beautiful line straight from Shrek. He says, "You are beautiful."
Also, you're funny.
But he says, he's like, you got a lot of people waiting for you out there. And then he says goodbye, and he still wants to divorce.
Oh,
yeah. He doesn't. He's like, I'm no good for you. Like he's stuck behind it, and so he leaves. And then she has to go out on stage, and she has to sing this big song about how she's gonna hold on to the man that she loves forever. Woo! And she starts singing it, and she's fucking crying, but she has to hold the tears back, and that's real acting right there, where she wants to cry but she can't, and so only like 2 or 3 tears escape, and she's like having trouble hitting the notes. She's having trouble like really feeling the song. And then eventually she just starts fucking belting. And it's like, it's incredible. And like, she's on the stage and she's wearing this black dress and the background is black. And so it's just her head and her hands like floating in darkness. Like Yentl. And it's fucking beautiful. And then the song ends and the movie ends. And that's the end of Funny Girl. Some good shit.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. That's some yummy stuff.
Some tasty shit. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a fucking movie right there, baby.
It wasn't very funny in my half of the movie, but
no,
it was really good.
It was very funny in my half. It was pretty funny. It did sound like it took a turn.
It took a bit of a turn.
I mean, luckily I still got to see. That's how it became a capital M movie, though.
That is true. And I still did get to see a lot of their like, chemistry and connection and stuff. Like, got to see them fall in love and got to see them be in love and like be married.
You saw most of their relationship,
basically. Yeah.
I saw a rise of a star.
Yes,
is what I saw.
And I'm happy that she still had like a career and she still had like influence and she was able to like support her kid or whatever. But it is sad. It's sad to see. This guy just.
I'm surprised how little that kid came into play.
Honestly, we see it as a baby. We never fucking see that thing again. There's a lot of like, well, she's growing up, and like, oh, she's upstairs, but we never fucking see her.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's just like she's not important to this plot.
Not at all.
Who cares?
I've been movie kind of forgot about her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the movie. Barbara Streisand.
She's not very. Her kid was not a very funny girl.
No, her kid was a boring kid. It was just like
solemn child.
But yeah, she's great. Omar Sharif is incredible. The direction of this movie is fantastic. There's some really good like shots and stuff.
Yeah. This is a banger of a movie. This is the best movie we've seen so far. I really like Yentl a lot too, but
yeah,
I mean, this is where I'm like, ooh, this is fucking art.
This is what I wanted. Yeah.
This is why this is in the Criterion collection, baby.
Well, I know what to get you for your birthday this year.
I mean, yeah.
Or next year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I enjoyed it too. I wish I had seen more positive moments.
That's all the beginning, man. The beginning's a fun time. It's a goofy time.
It's good to see her all scrappy, like working hard to like get into the industry.
Yeah.
That's some good shit right there.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Not the sad time you saw. But
I don't like a sad time. But it was powerful to see Barbara like. It's always great to see. You see this in Yentl too, where like she's singing and she has to like sing, she has to emote, she has to hide, she has to have multiple layers of emotions on her face.
But she's not pretending to be a boy this time.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. I loved it a lot. This is probably one of my favorites as well of what we've seen. I still really like the first half of Hello Dolly though, but
you're
that's
wrong.
all
So that's okay.
I understand.
You know what? At the ending, I was like, damn, that's a good ending of this. But when I explained my Hello Dolly ending.
Yeah,
man,
that's true.
Pretty bad.
That's true. And this had a male character who wasn't able to get out of his own way, but at least in this respect, there was like you could feel
he wasn't able to get out of his own way, but also he knew when to fall on his own sword.
And he also,
I'm like, damn, that's growth, baby.
Didn't like drag anybody
growth.
Down with him too. Yeah,
but also it's like negative growth, which I also am like understandable. Like the character changed, not in a great way. Not everybody changes for the better, and I like that. Like that's something that like especially movies older movies, they're always like, oh, I want to see the positive change, and you want to relate to this character because they're grumpy at the beginning and they get better.
Right.
But it's like, what if you see someone who's like super charming and on top of the world, and then they slowly just start to realize their luck has run out.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is their worth to the world? What is their worth to the world and the relationships and the people they support?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
I think that's what's so powerful. What's powerful about this film too is it's not even from his perspective.
No.
It's from hers.
It's
Like,
from her perspective and how she's like, I don't care about any of that. Like that
Yeah.
all doesn't matter. But like, unlike her, who's able to eventually look past the fact that like, oh, she's not, conventionally attractive or whatever. He is not able to do that.
Yeah.
He sits in prison for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it still comes out and is like, I'm not worth it. Like
Yeah.
I am just garbage and I'm not able to change, or I have no skill. And it's just like, just accept the love, bro.
Yeah,
it's just like he
exactly.
can't.
I
And
know.
that's just such a sad story.
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
sad.
Yeah.
And then they
So
all died. Guys, are there any funny girls or boys or non-binary people out there? You should email us at emailtheotherhalfpodcast.com.
Yeah.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, or also on Threads and X, and we also have a Discord.
Got it all, baby.
We got it all. And if you want to listen to our previous Streisand on the Beach episode, check them out on any podcatching app. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We will read it in the show no matter what it says, even if you're falling on unlucky times right now. We will accept
Who isn't,
you.
baby?
Who
Inflation's
isn't?
going up. Barbara Streisand will still love you, though.
That's right.
Yeah, she'll love you for who you are, even if you can't ask for that raise at your current job.
That's right. I hope she's doing well right now. Hope that Babs is having a good time right now.
Well, we'll see your last movie next time.
That's
so.
true. Well, you know what? So far we've had some pretty solid films. This one was the best one so far. I wonder if the next one will be even better.
I don't know about that.
Good night, everybody.
I don't know about that.